Our Dynasty trade value chart just underwent a huge update, and you know what time it is. It is Dynasty trade targets by position. We're going to go through running backs, wide receivers, quarterbacks, and tight ends, some buys, some sells, and a quick disclaimer. We're going to cover basically what you should pay for them. Superflex, one quarterback, future rookie picks, 2025 rookie picks if you haven't had your drafts yet. You'll see the trade value chart in action. If you guys want to access it, you know how to do it. Link down below in the description, flockfantasy.com, promo code FSE. And a quick announcement before we get into it, we are actually looking for some graphic design help. So if you guys are graphic designers professionally, leave that down below in the Google form. That'll be linked in the description of this video. But let's get into it. Wide receiver trade targets. I got some hard buys, some soft buys, and some soft sells to talk about. So this will be kind of the beefier area of this video based on keep trade cut market value, which you can see there. And then also where we have them ranked, Superflex, one quarterback, future rookie picks, 2025 rookie picks. That's what's all going on in the trade value chart here. They're hard buys because they're like 7-8 spots lower in keep trade cut value than where we have them ranked. So everybody on planet Earth that watches this channel knows that I'm going to talk about Josh Downs and Brandon Ayuk here. But with Josh Downs, I'll give you guys the quicker spiel. Now has quarterback Daniel Jones entrenched probably as the starter with Anthony Richardson's injury. His slot wide receiver, Wan'Dale Robinson, last year was pacing 143 targets. Downs is a much better player, scoring 13.1 PPR points per game last year and ranking top 5 in the NFL among wide receivers in first downs per route run. You can see his reception perception profile was absolutely spectacular last year. And this is despite missing all of training camp with a high ankle sprain, had quarterback turmoil last year. Anthony Richardson can't hit the broadside of a barn. You have Joe Flacco, who was kind of washed at that point. He ranked first among all quarterbacks in accuracy rating. Daniel Jones did in 2022, the last time he was starting. So I think this is a significant upgrade for Josh Downs. He also only had 5 touchdowns last year. He was only a second-year wide receiver, only 23 years old. So he's still getting better. And with Daniel Jones, this dude's never had an O-line like Indianapolis's. He's had a run game like Jonathan Taylor with Saquon Barkley, but he's not had the receiving core that Indianapolis has, nor has he really had the coaching and, like I said, the protection that the Colts have. So I do think that Daniel Jones is going to be a pretty significant upgrade for Josh Downs, and I'm buying him aggressively, A, because he's an excellent player, and B, because I do think short-term fantasy production should go up with Daniel Jones this year. Brandon Ayuk is the second hard buy that I have here. He was an elite NFL wide receiver back in 2023, second-team All-Pro that year. From 2020 to 2022, he was a very good NFL wide receiver. So we have a big sample of Brandon Ayuk being a very strong receiver in the NFL. The problem is his price is very depressed for 2 reasons. Number one, he's coming off of a multi-ligament ACL tear. I expect a slow start. Probably start the season on the pup. Probably not even really be on the field playing full snaps until middle of the season. And then towards the end of the season, hopefully his value will rebound or maybe stay the same for a little bit. But going into his second season, we know that the Dynasty market usually will value him second year post ACL tear. So that's partially why I like buying him now while his cost is depressed. And number two, the vibes of the season are giving you a buying window. He's, putting stuff on his personal YouTube. Last year, before the injury, he didn't look very good, so people are kind of down on him for that perspective. But we're talking about, in 2023, second-team All-Pro, 1,300 receiving yards, separated at a 96th percentile separation score versus man per reception perception, 91st versus zone, 97th versus press, and produced a top 15 season in points per game, with Debo finishing top 12 in the same offense, with Christian McCaffrey having a legendary season in 2023, and George Kittle being a top 6 tight end. Jawan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, no more Debo Samuel. I think his target competition got easier than it was before, and I really do think that he is easily worth the price when you bake in all the risk that he has, because you're valuing him right now as about a late first-round asset, maybe even an early second-rounder plus in some leagues, and I think it's absolutely worth the cost at that point to go and acquire Brandon Ayuk, specifically if you're 1 year punting. Like, you're going to try and compete next year, but you're not looking to compete this year. I think Brandon Ayuk's the perfect guy to buy because his value should increase post year 1 of the ACL tear going into next season. He's only going to be 28 at that point, ready to produce another productive season. So Jayden Reed, also a hard buy for me at this point. It's not often that 25-year-old wide receivers who are entering year 3 of their NFL career, who have been productive already, Jayden Reed's been very solid, been a league winner back in his rookie season, are available for like relatively decent price tags. A lot went wrong for Jayden Reed last year. If you think about it, week 1, he had that monster game. He has the #1 fantasy point per game scorer in week 1 of 2024. And Jordan Love goes down in that game. He's starting to deal with injury throughout the whole year. He missed week 2, he missed week 3, and then played through a groin injury from like week 8 onward. The Packers posted a 3.6% pass rate over expectation in the 5 games with a healthy Jordan Love, which would have ranked 7th highest in the NFL. And then in their other games, they were very, very run heavy. They did not let Malik Willis throw the ball. They were dead last basically in pass rate over expected. I really do think, I think people forget that we thought Jordan Love tore his ACL on that play. Like that was a significant injury and he came back a little sooner than people thought. Jaden Reed was balling in that first game. And I think there's an alternate season where he has a 15, 17 point per game year with a healthy Jordan Love. I get that he's a slot receiver. The team added Matthew Golden, but if you look around the league, there's plenty of slot receivers that are their team's number one. You think of the way that the Rams have deployed Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, Amon-Ra St. Brown in Detroit, Jackson Smith and Jigba in Seattle, Lad McConkey, some of these guys that are used mainly as PPR chain movers. I do think that Jaden Reed can be used that way, especially when he's still young. He's still getting better. So he is a hard buy for me right now. Definitely comfortable sending away a second round pick, early second rounder, even. I mean, I think he's probably worth closer to a late first round pick, but you will not have to pay that on the open market. Calvin Ridley and Deebo Samuel can kind of group together because they're both veteran wide receivers who you'd only be buying if you were a competitive team. But tell me how this makes sense. Calvin Ridley goes wide receiver 32, 55th overall on Underdog right now, indicating that he's a good redraft pick. I mean, you're talking about a 5th round pick in redraft formats because he got a QB upgrade. First overall, Cam Ward comes in. He had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons despite switching teams going from Jacksonville to Tennessee and playing on a team last year who had the first overall pick. Yet he's available right now for a mid to late second on the open market when after DeAndre Hopkins was traded last year, he was a top 20 wide receiver in utilization score and a top 25 wide receiver in PPR points per game with 14.1. I get he's 30 years old. He's probably not going to gain a lot of value, but I will take that production all day, especially when the cost, like I said, is a mid to late second round pick. It's pretty hard to get wide receiver 2-3 type of production for an aging player when it's not coming for more than like an early second or maybe even a late first. Like if you think of some of the guys that you have to pay late first, early seconds for who are around Calvin Ridley's age, like Devontae Adams, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, some of those guys, again, you're probably getting worse production from Calvin Ridley, but it's not by much. And I do think that the price tag is worth the risk, especially knowing that he's on a big contract. He'll probably be good for 2 to 3 more years before he starts to fall off. So I really like Calvin Ridley as a good buy right now. Same goes for Deebo Samuel. And there is some absolute haterade on the market for fat Deebo right now. Again, do I think he's 2021 Deebo Samuel? No, but I do think that the hate has gone a little bit too far because of some practice clips. In Washington, he can be a productive number 2 wide receiver. He can be at least a gadget player at the very minimum, and that'll probably make him a wide receiver 3 in fantasy, given how good this offense expects to be. He was wide receiver 12 in fantasy points per game 2 years ago. In 2023, people probably think that was forever ago. It's not like the guy's 36 right now. He had a calf strain in week 2, wrist injury in week 6, pneumonia in week 7, which would have affected him all year, according to a lot of the docs that I saw, ribs and oblique injuries week 8 and week 17. I get that's part of the problem with Deebo Samuel is that he gets banged up. He can't really stay on the field, but weeks 1 to 6 was the best sample I have of him being moderately healthy, and he averaged 14.1 PPR points per game and was wide receiver 25 that first 6 weeks of last season. And again, in 2023, he finished as a top 12 guy. So for me, mid to late second round pick, that's baked into his price. I do think that you can get him for a contending roster. If the price is higher, probably don't trade for him, but mid to late second round picks, you can go and get Deebo Samuel, especially in deeper PPR leagues. I do actually really like that price. Now moving into the soft buys. So those first couple guys I'm like actively buying, especially those of you guys looking for PPR production, especially as contenders. This is a bigger group of guys, so I'll try and speed through these a little bit faster. I talk about Zay Flowers a lot, so I'll save you guys some time. He's been a 75 reception guy back-to-back years through his first 2 years in the league. I think people think that Zay Flowers is like in year 5. It seems like that the way that they treat him, but he's still a very young player, still not even 25 years old yet, and he has a generational quarterback in Lamar Jackson, who probably could have been MVP this year, and he's the number 1 receiver there. If Andrews declines as a red zone option, we could see a spike in touchdowns for Zay Flowers. He's been like a 4 and 5 touchdown guy the last 2 years of his career. And I really do think a third year, 140 plus target bump is in the range of outcomes for Zay Flowers, because I get that the Lamar Jackson Ravens are not going to throw the ball at a high rate, but you never know. Defensive injuries, for whatever reason, they fall behind in some game scripts. Derrick Henry maybe isn't as dominant as he was last year. He averaged like 5.9 yards a carry. I do think Zay Flowers might have more volume in store for him this season, and that's why I'm actively buying him. Plus, he's just a good player on a good offense with a good quarterback. It's an easy investment. I'll sleep like a baby investing in players like that. Olave and Michael Pittman are also similar cases. A calendar year ago, we felt very good about them as assets. Olave was coming into redraft with a second-round price tag. Michael Pittman was a top 15 receiver the year before. Olave, 22 and 23 years old, his first 2 years in the league, commanded a 27%, a 25% target share, and produced legitimate like wide receiver 2 production over 1,000 yards in back-to-back seasons to start his career. The concussions are baked into his price. Again, I do think he can bounce back, but it is worth noting that, you know, a couple concussions into the future and he could be in Brandon Cooks territory where we don't really feel good about him staying on the field. But regardless, I think that's baked into Chris Olave's price. Also baked into Chris Olave's price for me is that he could reestablish himself as a top 15, top 20 dynasty wide receiver with a good season. I get the Saints are bad, but he could get traded. He's a free agent after next year. There's a lot that could happen with Olave. I'm not really worried about his immediate situation because it could get better either with some of the quarterbacks that they have, with a first-round pick next year, or he gets traded and dealt to a different team. Michael Pittman played through a back injury all year. In 2023, he had a 30% target share and was wide receiver 14 in points per game. The same reasons that I like Josh Downs is that I think this offense will be the breakout unit of 2025. So I like Michael Pittman and Josh Downs despite both of them kind of eating into each other. So I'm buying into both players. Pittman just 27 years old. He's also the type of guy that on odd number years always pays off at ADP and then on even number years always disappoints at ADP. It's kind of weird how that works out for Pittman, but we'll see what happens this season. Stephon Diggs seems to be recovering post ACL tear pretty well. He has no brace, I believe, in the quarterback, Drake May, of course. And Diggs, before his injury, was producing like a mid wide receiver 2. Last season with Houston, he was on the field for 7 games of the year, producing like a good chain-moving PPR guy. And Drake May looked like a franchise quarterback to me last year. With me and you out there coaching him, with me and you out there playing offensive line for him, and with me and you out there catching passes from him, he still looked like a fantasy quarterback 1 in the games that he started and finished. That is a very impressive feat. And I think that Stephon Diggs plus Kyle Williams plus some of the Trevion Henderson offensive line additions, coaching upgrade, that's all going to go well for the Patriots. And that's why I like Stephon Diggs. If you're a true contender, top 3 to 5 team in your league, and you can go trade for Stephon Diggs to fill out a flex spot or whatever, I think he's a pretty good option. I actually breezed over Sutton, which I didn't even talk about. Cortland Sutton, the reason I think he's a good buy is honestly just that he had a really good season last year. They didn't really add anything at wide receiver other than Pat Bryant and Franklin and Mims, who they already have. And Cortland Sutton is being drafted as like a late 4th round, early 5th round redraft pick. And I don't think that's reflected in his dynasty cost there. So then some cheaper guys that I think are just good dart throws in really, really deep formats. Christian Kirk, Hollywood Brown, Elikayo Manor. Kirk probably starts the year in the slot for Houston. I think he could be a good PPR wide receiver 3, kind of like last year's Khalil Shakir. Plus, Christian Kirk isn't super old. He could get another job after this season. And then same goes for Hollywood Brown, spike week appeal in Kansas City. I think that it would probably be not that shocking to me if him, Rice, and Worthy were all really close in production, and Hollywood's by far the cheapest of those guys, which is why I don't mind playing it through him. And then Elikayo Manor of the Tennessee Titans, the 4th round rookie. I'm trying to get ahead of this because I love the prospect. I thought he was a 2nd round player, and he's getting tons of buzz right now in camp. And the Titans, all they have is Calvin Ridley at wide receiver. And they picked up Xavier Restrepo, undrafted, who was, of course, was Cam Ward's teammate in college. But I do think there's room for Elikayo Manor to carve out a big slot role or an outside wide receiver role opposite Calvin Ridley. And I think he was just a good player, man. I thought his film was good. He produced. Everything about him was pretty solid to me. So I do think he's worth the price tag at his cost right now. Now let's move into the sells at wide receiver. Jalen Waddle, Jamison Williams, Khalil Shakir, and Keon Coleman. Now, quickly, before I talk about this, remember that a soft sell basically means that they're just overpriced on the market. It's not necessarily that I'm fire selling them. I just think that you should take advantage of them being inflated in market value, trade down, pick up a 2nd round pick within the same tier, etc. So Jalen Waddle objectively had a bad year last year. He was a bit banged up, but honestly, not much to point to. There's nothing I can point to with Jalen Waddle other than Tua being injured. And again, when you take a look at when he was healthy, he still wasn't good with Jalen Waddle. I don't think it's baked into his price enough that we can't explain why he was so bad last year. For example, he is older than Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy is ranked 10 spots lower than him in Dynasty wide receiver rankings, despite having a much better year and being the clear number 1 on his team. Josh Downs is much younger than him, 2.5, 3 years younger than him, and he had a better year as well. To me, there's maneuvers you can make with Jalen Waddle. Trade down, get Downs in a second. Trade down, get Jerry Jeudy in a second. I would rather do that because Waddle has a lot of risk, similar to those other players, but I think even maybe a little bit more risk. As much as I believe in the Dolphins, I'm more so playing it through Tyreek because I think Tyreek's a much better receiver. But Waddle is a guy that I think in Dynasty would be worth buying low on, except everybody feels like he's a good buy low, so he's not really a buy low, if that makes any sense. Jamison Williams, I talk about all the time, had a great year, 24 years old, top 24 season. That's all well and good. He should be valued highly in Dynasty as a result. But he's wide receiver 22, man. That's a little bit high for me, especially when you factor in Ben Johnson leaves. He was very efficient last year. Jamison Williams needed a guy like Ben Johnson to scheme up the offense, scheme up the open looks, and I think you're probably going to see some regression out of Jamison Williams a little bit because Ben Johnson is leaving. I get he's a young player. He could still get better. He could start, earning more targets or whatever. But the guys that love JMO really love JMO. And to me, on no planet should be ahead of proven target earning guys like Chris Olave, Jordan Addison, Zay Flowers, or other younger players who I think have better outlooks, like an Xavier Worthy, for example, or some of the rookie receivers like Emeka Egbuka, Matthew Golden in this year's class. Among young wide receivers, again, I get why he's valued highly. We want Lions pieces. I would honestly just pivot to a cheaper guy plus at that price tag. Imagine you could get Chris Olave plus a second for Jamison Williams. To me, that's a very good trade to make. Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, both Buffalo Bills, being elevated probably for the same reason, because they play with Josh Allen. Khalil Shakir is a solid player, but Khalil Shakir was very appealing last year when he wasn't worth anything. Now you're kind of paying for his production, and 800 yards, 100 targets, you're going to get like a usable flex piece out of Khalil Shakir. And to me, at his price tag, that's just a little bit steep. He's 25. It's not like he's going to get significantly better. Like, I think he could get a little bit better, maybe produce 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns or something. But I do think you're probably getting closer to what his ceiling is, especially when you factor in that Buffalo probably will need to invest in this position a little bit more after this year, because in my opinion, they don't have enough there. Keon Coleman is young. He's raw. I still get he's getting better because he was really, really raw coming into the NFL, and he's just 22 years old. But he did not separate last year. According to Matt Harmon, he said as a prospect, he needed to move big slot, and he can't because there's 78 slot receivers on the Buffalo Bills, and they're typecasting him as a true X receiver, and it's not going to end well. He can't play that role at a high level because he doesn't have the athleticism, the fluidity to be able to separate at a high level. So he's going to be like a contested catch guy his whole career, most likely. And he wasn't even good in contested situations last year. So for me, I'm kind of treating him as like a face planner where he didn't really show me a whole lot, especially given that he was a little bit of a controversial prospect. So I would be selling him for, second round capital if I can get it. If nobody's going to give you that, then obviously keep him. But that's where I'm at with Keon Coleman. Khalil Shakir, again, if you needed to keep a good flex piece wide receiver, it's fine. But I would probably just try and tier up from him. He's worth about a mid-second. Maybe try and get to a Brandon Ayuk using Khalil Shakir as a piece. Maybe try and get to somebody that I talked about earlier, like Michael Pittman or Cortland Sutton or something like that. I do think all of those guys really make some sense. Moving into the running back position, I know I went really long on wide receivers, but to me, that's the position group that has the most exploitable value. Running back being a pretty close second. The two expensive options at the top here, Devon Achane, Chase Brown, they're going really high in redraft. And I think it's not really factored into their dynasty price tag, given how many projectable years of volume they have ahead of them and how much I really like them from like a redraft angle as well. Achane is a top 10 player for me in redraft. I have him ranked as my 10th overall player at just 23 years old. He's coming off of back-to-back RB1 seasons where he led the position in targets last year. And I just don't see how anybody cannot be impressed with what he's done so far. And honestly, I don't get why people are taking Saquon Barkley over him in startups. I don't get really even why people are taking Amari and Hampton over him. Saquon's a beast, but the second you draft him, you're competing. And also, he's 28 years old. Achane could literally outscore him this year, especially in PPR. And when you take his splits with Tua, he actually did outscore Saquon Barkley last season, even despite Saquon rushing for 2,000 yards. And Amari and Hampton, he could definitely pass Achane and dynasty value a calendar year from now, but he has some work to do. He wasn't a perfect prospect. He has to beat out Najee Harris, and I'm just not passing on an elite young running back who can give me legitimate difference-making production with Devon Achane. So if you're a contender, you're looking, who's the premier guy I can go buy right now? The answer is Devon Achane. To me, he's the best running back to buy on the market right now if you're looking for needle-moving, difference-making production, and he's only 23.7 years old. He's going to have a 3 to 4 year, a really productive window ahead of him. Chase Brown is also a really cheap option that you can get probably multiple years of RB1 projection. which is not very common. Like, think about how many guys in Dynasty have multiple years of RB1 production. If the rookies hit, they definitely will. But other than them, it's like, okay, Bijan has it, Gibbs has it, Genty has it, Achane has it, Hampton, once he wins the workload, will have it. But then after that, it's like, okay, does Breece Hall have that? Bucky Irving probably has it. Like, you're running out of guys pretty quickly because guys like Jonathan Taylor and Josh Jacobs and those guys, multiple years is a bit of a stretch. They'll probably be RB1s this year, but going forward, they're going to be a little bit older. They're going to have a lot of touches under their belt. Chase Brown was an elite RB1 down the stretch last year, and the Bengals added nobody. Taj Brooks in the 6th round ain't scaring me. Zach Moss coming back ain't scaring me. Quietly a 4+ target per game running back when he started for the team. Contenders looking to hammer, for a hammer running back like Chase Brown should feel very comfortable paying for a guy like this, because I do think he's going to give you great production, probably cheaper than what you're going to have to pay for up top with like Achane and Bijan and Gibbs and those type of guys. So I feel pretty comfortable trading for Chase Brown. You could probably get him for like a singular late projected first in some leagues based on his price tag right now, and I'm very comfortable paying that, especially given that he could be really good for a number of years, let alone just for this season. So Byshell Tootin of the Jaguars, the only hard buy of this section, he's slipping to almost RB40 in Dynasty leagues right now, which is really shocking to me because in redraft, he's valued about the same, and he's 22 years old, and he was nearly a top 100 pick by the architect of the league's most efficient rushing offense last year, Liam Cohen, who of course is now with the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's James Gladstone's Kyron, who comes from the Rams, and Liam Cohen's Bucky, who comes from Tampa Bay. Travis Etienne's on the last year of his deal, floated as a trade candidate, potentially. We don't know if that's going to materialize or not, but regardless, Tank Bigsby, probably a complimentary hammer despite being pretty good last year. I don't think he would ever really start for the Jaguars, especially after they invest in Tootin. Only investment made by this coaching staff. Once he gets up to speed, he can really cook, and I think he'll fly up the Dynasty boards once he looks great. I loved the prospect. I love the landing spot. The fit is Devon Achane going to the Dolphins level, glove fit. Like, this is an excellent fit for what he does. He can do what Bucky did last year. He can do some of the receiving stuff that Rachaad White was asked to do. He can do the Kyron stuff from the Rams system that Gladstone comes from. So Byshell Tootin, to me, if you're a rebuilding team and you can send a mid-2 for this guy, very easily doing that. And of course, if you haven't had your rookie draft yet, definitely draft him around that 204, 205 area where I have him ranked in my rookie rankings. And we'll probably do an updated rookie rankings a couple of weeks from now. Isaiah Pacheco and Brian Robinson are also good buys for me right now because I think they're pretty similar to the wide receivers. If you haven't noticed, I'm kind of comfortable taking on some injury discounts because Pacheco and B-Rob both kind of dealt with injuries last year. As long as it's baked into the price, and it's less of an issue now, which it doesn't appear to be a recurring issue for Pacheco or Brian Robinson. A healthy Pacheco, which according to Andy Reid he is and looks great in mini camps. We'll see what happens once training camp opens. But he was a 15+ point per game scorer in 2023 and before he got injured in week 3 of last year. A big season this year means that he's going to probably get an extension by Kansas City. And for a 7th round running back like Isaiah Pacheco, he's going to be very motivated to carry a massive workload, score touchdowns, make big plays, fight for extra yards, all that kind of stuff. So I think Isaiah Pacheco is a really good buy because I think you're getting him kind of at his basement price tag. And he could have like remember Miles Sanders last season in Philadelphia? He had that big year and then he signed the contract in Carolina. Whether it's Kansas City or not, I do think a big year out of Pacheco is coming. Maybe a big contract in free agency. You could sell high at that point. You could continue using him. I just think he's a pretty good back, and I think that he's going to get a big workload because all they added was a 7th round Brashard Smith, who's fun, but probably a special teamer. Some patchwork veterans like Elijah Mitchell, who can't stay healthy. Kareem Hunt, who's kind of washed at this point. I'm buying him for a mid-second round pick. And the same goes for Brian Robinson because before suffering his injuries last year, he was like a touchdown or bust mid RB2 who you could really count on like every other game to give you a good performance. And in deeper leagues, some of the better NFL offenses like the Washington Commanders, if you get their goal line back, you're going to really feel comfortable starting those guys. Someone explained to me, like I'm 5, why David Montgomery, who's essentially the exact same player as Brian Robinson, both from a talent perspective, he's actually 2 years older than Brian Robinson, doesn't have a full workload because Jahmyr Gibbs is there. Why is he going higher in Dynasty than Brian Robinson? To me, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Similar to Pacheco, he's also probably motivated Brian Robinson to have a good year this year, get a contract extension. So I feel really good about B-Rob, man. I would much rather have him than David Montgomery because I do think you don't have to worry about Jahmyr Gibbs ascension with a guy like B-Rob. And again, Jaden Daniels draws a lot of attention. As a runner, it's going to make Brian Robinson efficient as long as he can stay on the field healthy. Aaron Jones, Also another guy that I feel comfortable buying if you guys are a competitive team. He has not fallen off yet. It's coming eventually, maybe even this year, but that's baked into his costs. And Aaron Jones has been a 4.5 yards per carry running back every year of his career. He's been a top 24 running back every year of his career. I have no doubt in my mind that as long as he's on the field, he's going to start. It is not a two-man backfield. Jordan Mason is the handcuff. Maybe I'm stunned on that take, but Mason's got a far bigger injury history as well than Aaron Jones. So it's not like, okay, I get the thesis in theory. You're like, okay, Aaron Jones is old. Jordan Mason's a good handcuff. We saw it last year with Christian McCaffrey. He could take over the workload. As long as Aaron Jones is on the field, who was a top 15 running back last year, I just really don't see him ceding work to Jordan Mason. They gave him an extension, for God's sakes. Like, they gave him a good big money extension to be their starting running back. So I feel pretty good about Aaron Jones this year. If you're a competitive team, you need another flex, you need another running back, just send a mid to late second round pick for Aaron Jones and you're probably good. Tajay Spears, I'm expecting to really dent Pollard's workload. This is more of a vibes take than anything, to be honest, because Spears was so banged up last year that they basically forced Pollard to have a huge workload, and every chance they get, they keep talking about dialing back Pollard's workload. So I do think this year you're going to see closer to a 50-50 split between these two guys, and Spears has more receiving appeal, is younger, I think will be more efficient because Pollard's starting to get up there in age. So Spears to me is the guy that I'm more interested in, especially knowing that they have an out in Pollard's deal after 2025. It's possible that they would cut bait with him and roll with Spears for his final year in 2026 for his contract year. So both short-term, really good handcuff, maybe standalone role appeal from like a redraft perspective. And then maybe in 2026, he's going to start for the Tennessee Titans and you'd have a selling window or you could hold him through that. DJ Giddens is the last guy that I have as a soft buy here. At the very least, he's an elite handcuff, in my opinion. I loved the prospect. I thought he was really raw, but definitely when he can figure things out, he's going to be a good player. Jonathan Taylor, by the way, has dealt with a lot of injuries. And number two, he has a literal bajillion touches going back to his college days. He was a workhorse there, been a workhorse in the NFL. I love the Colts offense, as you guys can probably tell. So I like DJ Giddens as, at the very least, a very good handcuff, maybe with some standalone appeal, but more than likely the long-term heir apparent to Jonathan Taylor. And if DJ Giddens could be like Trey Benson, where we kind of know he's not going to start right away, but he holds his value because people can see it, maybe see it on the field. He looks really good. And then year 2, year 3 of DJ Giddens' career, he's starting for the Colts. That would be a good, payoff in terms of what you're paying for him. So that's where I'm at with DJ Giddens. And you don't have to pay a lot for this dude. I mean, he's probably going for late thirds, I would imagine, in your rookie drafts, and also probably on the open market if you were to trade for him. Just tack him onto the back of a deal, get him as a throw-in. He could really pay off for you. Some of the sells at the running back position. I hope I'm not going too fast for some people right now, but I do have a lot to get through here. Dynasty running backs that I'm selling, again, like I said for the wide receivers, I'm not selling them all. I'm just shopping them and seeing if I can tier up, tier down, because I don't like their price tag. Kyren Williams, Kenneth Walker, David Montgomery, who I referenced, Jordan Mason, who I referenced, and Jaden Blue of the Cowboys. Kyren is weird because he's priced at RB11 in casual leagues on Keep Trade Cut, Dynasty Data Labs and stuff. In sharper leagues, he tends to fall a little bit. So I'm fine with his price in sharper leagues, but if you can cash out right now for a mid-first, like that price tag suggests that RB11 would go for, I would do it because Jarquez Hunter, the 4th round pick, Blake Corum, the 3rd round pick last year, they're nipping at his heels. I don't know how this backfield's going to shake out. I tend to think that Kyren will still start 60, 70% of the feature back work, especially if he gets a contract extension. But are those guys going to be more involved? If he gets a contract extension, which is what I think this price is based on, that he's maybe going to get one, I'll probably move him up into that range myself. But until that happens, I'm going to keep him around RB 15-ish and be a little bit hesitant unless he slides in sharper rooms. Kenneth Walker just keeps dealing with nagging injuries, soft tissue stuff, groin injuries. Zach Charbonnet, of course, nipping at his heels. Again, sharper leagues with him, he usually falls at a nice discount. But any first-round capital, and he's off my team. I would sell Kenneth Walker for anything first-round related. 2027 mid to late first, I'm selling him. Mid to late first next year, I'm selling him. Think about it with both guys. How much easier is it to sell that first-round pick that you get for them than the player themselves? If you got a mid-first for Kyren Williams and you wanted to buy a running back, you cannot trade Kyren Williams for Breece Hall, most likely, in most of your leagues. But you can trade a mid to late first for Breece Hall to the right owner who's maybe a little bit worried about him. You can trade a mid to late first plus something else to go up to get Devon Achane. You probably can't trade Kyren Williams plus something else or Kenneth Walker from plus something else to go get Devon Achane, because why would that person downgrade at running back? You give them the mystery box of the first round pick, they're probably more likely to accept it. So that's why I'm selling Kenneth Walker and Kyron Williams. Just a little bit of uncertainty, a little bit more risk than I'm willing to undergo right now. But in sharper leagues, they fall further enough that it is okay by my books. David Montgomery and Jordan Mason, I already made reference to. Montgomery loses Ben Johnson as well, which I think is going to be a factor. Frank Ragnow, the center, retires, which is huge for David Montgomery. And he has an ascending superstar running back in his backfield in Jahmyr Gibbs. We saw his workload go down last year after Jahmyr Gibbs' rookie season. I think we'll see it go down again this year. David Montgomery has as good of a handcuff upside as anybody. If Jahmyr Gibbs goes down, he is going to win people leagues, and it is going to be a movie if it happens. However, I think he's going to go from co-starter to role player this year, and I think that's going to affect his bottom line fantasy production. And as a 28-year-old running back, you are only as good as your production. If I think his production goes down, then I think he's probably overvalued on the market right now. He's ahead of true starters, in my opinion. Like, Pacheco is 2.5 years younger than him, and he's going to start for the Chiefs. So that's why I can't take David Montgomery at RB21, RB22, where he's currently going. Mason is a handcuff, in my opinion. Maybe I'm nuts and you guys think that he's going to start over Aaron Jones. By all means, buy him if that's what you think. But guys, the Vikings extended Aaron Jones to a 2-year deal, and the compensation for Jordan Mason was a 20-pick slide up in the 2025 class and a 2026 6th-round pick. So it's not like they have a lot invested in him versus Aaron Jones. He's definitely one of the better handcuffs in football. I think if we nuked every starting running back in the league, Jordan Mason would be at the top 5 probably of handcuffs that you would want. But his price of RB36 indicates that he could start without an injury. Like, he's going around Jalen Warren, who will probably start for the Steelers right away, Tajay Spears, who might start for the Titans at some point, Najee Harris. He goes ahead of Byshel Tootin, which I don't really get. Jordan Mason, to me, is just a little bit overvalued. I have him in like the 50s because he's a good handcuff. That's where Algier is. That's where some of those handcuff guys are. He is not a starting running back, in my opinion, and that's where he's being priced. So Jaden Blue for the Cowboys, he's a scat back, fellas. I get that the Cowboys have nothing, so you're like, okay, Javonte stinks, Miles Sanders stinks, everybody there stinks. Somebody's got to emerge here. Let's take the rookie because he might emerge as the starting running back. But Jaden Blue's a scat back, guys. Like, at Texas last year, the starting running back, CJ Baxter, tore his ACL before the season, and Jaden Blue had like 100 carries. Like, they could have given him a huge workload, but they didn't. They gave Trey Wisner a big workload as well. I think Jaden Blue will have a lot of appeal in like full PPR, but I think the absolute ceiling for a player like this is he turns into Tariq Cohen or Nyheim Hines or something like that, which could still pay off at his price tag. I just do think that his ceiling is somewhat limited by his size, by his lack of rushing acumen there. So moving into the quarterback position, obviously these are super flex focused, and you could see the one quarterback prices as well, and you could definitely buy these guys with one quarterback, but generally speaking, this is super flex advice coming up. A lot of easy cases here. I love Jordan Love, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, Dak Prescott, and Daniel Jones at their cost right now if you are looking to buy a quarterback. I made the case for Jaden Reed already. It makes sense why I like Jordan Love as well. He was quarterback 5 in points per game in his first starting season in 2023. Last year, he got hurt the first game of the year. The literal first game of the year, he was down with an injury, and it looked bad. It looked like an ACL tear. It wasn't. He ended up coming back, but I guess he would not choose to play through that every single time if he had the choice. It looked like a very painful injury. His rushing was non-existent compared to his 2023 rushing. So I think Jordan Love's going to have a big time bounce back this season. And even last year, he wasn't terrible. He had a couple good games. He just didn't have quite the level of mobility that we saw from him in 2023. And I think that's going to rebound itself. And he's a 26-year-old quarterback, man. I feel like he's going to be just fine. And I have him quarterback 11. He goes off the board like quarterback 15, 16, which I don't really get. Kyler Murray has been up and down, no doubt. Kyler is not for the faint of heart. If you are a risk-averse dynasty player, do not draft Kyler Murray. Do not trade for Kyler Murray. But you got Marvin Harrison entering year 2. Trey McBride's just an absolute monster. Kyler Murray has been a quarterback 1 every year of his career. Let me repeat that. He has been, since 2019, including his rookie season, he has been a top 12 quarterback every year of his career. And we've seen league-breaking upside from Kyler Murray when he's able to run. This year is make or break for him. I think the Cardinals are starting to get a little annoyed with the inconsistency, get a little annoyed with the lack of playoff success, the lack of regular season success. Kyler's going to be motivated this year. He's got a number 1 receiver entering his prime. He's got a great tight end who's probably the 2nd or 3rd best tight end in the league. I feel like Kyler is going to probably have a bounce back year. And more importantly, we saw last year the rushing adjust itself post ACL tear. He was 2 years removed last year, and he started to run the ball more. And I think he'll run the ball a lot this year as a result. Baker Mayfield and Dak, I mean, you guys hear us talk about this enough, so I'm not going to waste your time with this, but I just think it's ridiculous that Baker's QB 18 on the market and Dak is QB 21, because you know that these guys are going to be top 12 quarterbacks, most likely from a redraft perspective. If you're a competing team, by round 5, round 6, when you have to take these guys in a startup, or you could sell a mid to late first for either of these dudes, maybe you'd have to pay a little bit more than that in like really, really QB heavy super flex formats, but I think a mid to late first will probably get it done for either guy. You know that these guys are going to be dominant. Think about Baker Mayfield's weapons, man. He's got 4 great receivers, a solid tight end, 2 good running backs. Like, how does he not have a top 12 season? And same goes for Prescott. They're going to have to throw the ball. Look at their run game. They're going to have to throw the ball. And he has CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Jake Ferguson now healthy. I feel good that if you are a competitive team, you have, let's say, Justin Herbert and Kyler Murray as your quarterbacks, you could down tier from Justin Herbert and get Baker Mayfield plus. You could down tier from Justin Herbert and get Dak Prescott plus. I down tiered from Justin Herbert and got Mike Evans and Baker Mayfield in a trade. So I feel like that feels like a good deal, because Baker Mayfield's going to outproduce Justin Herbert probably for the next couple years, but definitely this year. So if you're a competitive team, why hold on to Herbert, who's not going to have nearly the production that Baker will, given the pass volume? And I'll talk about Herbert in a second. Danny Dimes, of course, my son at this point. I love me some Danny Dimes. Can't be as high as I am on Josh Downs, on Michael Pittman, even Adonai Mitchell, Alec Pierce, and the run game without liking Daniel Jones. He's being priced right now like he is going to be a 50-50 to win the job. I'd be shocked if he's not the quarterback for the Colts most of, if not all of the season. And I'm actually leaning towards he has a good year with the Colts, makes the playoffs and gets extended, and is this year's Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith, Sam Darnold. We've seen in 4 straight years now that we've seen a cast-off quarterback start for a new team, better situation than he was in before, and he gets a contract extension. To me, that is going to happen with Daniel Jones this year. I get that that's the upper range of outcomes, but if it does happen, Daniel Jones, who 2 years ago was valued as a top 15 fantasy quarterback on the Dynasty market, will be back up there as soon as, because he produces. Like when he was last healthy on the field, he was quarterback 10 in points per game with Richie James and Darius Slayton as his top wide receivers. He now has Josh Downs, Michael Pittman, Adonai Mitchell, Alec Pierce, Tyler Warren, who I didn't even mention, who they drafted in the first round, Jonathan Taylor to hand the ball off to, DJ Giddens, the second running back on the team, a better offensive line, and Shane Steichen calling the plays. To me, this is a better situation by far than anything that the Giants had ever had with Daniel Jones going back a couple of years. So to me, I feel like paying a mid to late second for this. Like I traded Audric Estime and Michael Mayer for Daniel Jones. He is not going for a lot. You better go buy him before training camp, because once the door and the window shuts on people knowing he's the starting quarterback, he is going to go up way in value. And I'm telling you, get ahead of the curve. Do it now. Dynasty quarterbacks that I am selling. Justin Herbert, I just made reference to. Now, here's why I'm selling him, because obviously Justin Herbert's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, but he's quarterback 8 in Dynasty. This is fantasy football, fellas. He is not going to produce quarterback 8 numbers. We all know this. Jim Harbaugh, Greg Roman, they want to run the football. They drafted a running back in the first round, and Herbert is probably not outscoring any of these names who are going after him. And you could probably get a significant plus from tearing down from Herbert to these guys. Baker Mayfield and Dak, like I already mentioned, they're going to outscore Justin Herbert this year. I would be shocked. They're both going higher in redraft. Brock Purdy, also going higher in redraft. Jordan Love, also going higher in redraft. Kyler Murray, also going higher in redraft and is younger than Justin Herbert, and so is Jordan Love and Purdy. CJ Stroud, also going about the same in redraft, way younger than Justin Herbert, yet Justin Herbert goes higher in Dynasty because he's a better real-life quarterback. Bo Nix also goes way higher in redraft. Hell, even Trevor Lawrence and some of the lower guys, J.J. McCarthy, Penix, those type of dudes, I wouldn't be shocked if they outscored him for fantasy this year. Congrats on holding down 7th place by holding Justin Herbert. Yes, he's a safe asset. He probably won't lose a whole lot of value because he's Justin Herbert. Everybody knows he's very good. But he's finished outside of quarterback 1 range 2 of the last 3 years. And last year with Jim Harbaugh, he threw only 504 passes, 23 touchdowns. Runs the ball a little bit, which is nice. But Jim Harbaugh year 2, Greg Roman year 2, they drafted a first-round running back. Like, they might throw the ball 450 times this year. And Justin Herbert, at best, is going to have one of those efficient seasons like Lamar had, minus the rushing, where he has like 28 touchdowns on, 450 pass attempts. And he'll probably be like a back-end QB1 if that happens. But more than likely, he's going to give you QB2 numbers. And that's why I'm trading off of him right now, because he's kind of all name value at this point. Justin Fields, very shaky asset. I am selling Justin Fields mainly mainly because I'm just kind of sick of expecting the Jets to do the right thing. You guys know I've been burned by the Jets one too many times. The Steelers were okay with letting this guy go. The Steelers are a better organization than the Jets, and they chose the Jets' old quarterback over the Steelers' current quarterback. They could have extended Justin Fields. They could have given him the exact same contract that the Jets gave him, but they chose to go after Aaron Rodgers instead. Now, valuing him quarterback 23 ahead of Tua, who has a way better contract than Justin Fields and is probably just a better real-life quarterback than Justin Fields within striking distance. And this is the key part of Justin Fields, because generally, if you have Justin Fields and you can't sell him, he's fine to hold. But if you're in striking distance of Dak, of Goff, of Bryce, of Penix, of JJ, like you are with Justin Fields in current market value right now, try and tier up. Try and get Justin Fields plus a first-round pick, go up and get Baker Mayfield. Justin Fields plus a second-round pick, go up and get JJ McCarthy. Like, you're close. You can almost see it. That is what I would be willing to do. Tyler Shuck is also another guy that he's just not a good quarterback. He was like a year 8 prospect. The Saints will probably both have Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shuck start games this year. So I think the conventional wisdom would say they drafted this guy in the 2nd round. They took Rattler in the 5th round. Before they took Shuck, there was a lot of reports that they liked Rattler, and it wouldn't shock me if these two guys split reps in camp. One guy comes out on top for the early part of the season. One guy comes out on top for the late part of the season, and they go back and forth, and this offense is just a complete train wreck, and next year they draft a first-round quarterback. Like, that's probably what's going to happen. So if Shuck wins the job out, especially in training camp, he's getting the first team reps, he's going to win the job, he's going to start week 1, sell this dude, because you'll probably get an easy 2nd round pick for a QB desperate team. And that is what I'd be looking to cash out on for Tyler Shuck, because he just was not a good prospect. I don't think he was a good prospect at all. I think him and Spencer Rattler are relatively the same skill level. And if I think that, nobody's beating the door down to go trade for Spencer Rattler right now. So tight ends. I'll talk about the vets first, because only 2 of them, Pat Freiermuth and Hunter Henry, are good values right now. Pat Freiermuth, only 26 years old, quarterback upgrade with Aaron Rodgers, at least as a passer over Justin Fields and Russell Wilson combined. He produced about 11 points per game in PPR with Russ. When Russ was starting, they threw the ball a lot more than when Fields was starting. And I think that pass volume will be the same with Aaron Rodgers, even maybe more, because Aaron Rodgers, I don't know if you guys know this about him, the Jets, the Packers, they all get pissed off at him because he checks out of run plays in the red zone. And that's where Pat Freiermuth has made his money in the NFL so far. So I do think that we could get a 9-touchdown season, a 10-touchdown season out of Pat Freiermuth at 26 years old, and he would really increase in dynasty value if that happened. So I actually really like him. If you guys are looking for a good tight end too to sit behind, like I have TJ Hawkinson in our startup right now, getting a Pat Freiermuth behind that would be perfect. He's also pretty good for tight end premium because he catches a lot of passes as well. Hunter Henry, also a decent option for that. 5th in targets at the tight end position, and he's literally free. Like, you don't have to pay anything for this dude. On an improving offense, he scores more than 2 touchdowns this year, and he'll be a top 12 tight end, in my opinion, because he's just a good player, and he can catch passes. The only ones that I'm really fascinated with, though, as buys for rebuilders are the rookies and Michael Mayer. Mason Taylor, Terrence Ferguson, Oronde Gadsden, this position group in general is very easy to skyrocket up the market. If Mason Taylor has a good rookie season, he'll be tight end 4 in Dynasty this time next year. That's just how the Dynasty tight end market works. There's not a whole lot of guys. Mason Taylor has a chance to carve out a number 2 target role on the Jets from get-go. It is Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall as a receiver, and nobody else there. He was a good prospect on film. He had a decent prospect profile. I broke down him and Ferguson and all the other tight ends in this class in the 2025 tight ends to target and avoid. I will take shots on Mason Taylor and Terrence Ferguson, both being top 15 guys in Dynasty in my rankings right now. Ferguson's actually valued lower than Taylor at tight end 20. The Rams reportedly, this was a report that came out from Sean McVay and Les Snead and stuff. They picked at 26. They traded down with the Giants so they could come get Jackson Dart. They were going to take Terrence Ferguson there, apparently. He was going to be a first-round pick. He's going to start sooner than people think. I think everybody's like, oh, Tyler Higbee's there. I'm not worried about Tyler Higbee when they were willing to spend a first-round pick on this dude. And Terrence Ferguson, to me, is one of the best values in best ball and redraft right now. He's literally a 18th round pick. And in Dynasty, I think he's a really good value as well because, like I said, very athletic, very productive, had a decent profile, very highly thought of by the team. Puka and Devontae Adams are dominant target earners. But if Terrence Ferguson can carve out a nice 80-target, efficient rookie season, maybe score 7 touchdowns or something, he's going to fly up Dynasty rankings to be a top 10 tight end. And I feel really, really confident in his ability to do that on one of the better offenses in the league. Oronde Gadsden of the Chargers was one of my favorite sleeper tight ends, earning rave reviews. Apparently, the report in training camp right now, or mini camp before they went on break, is that the hype is out of control on Oronde Gadsden. The hype that they have for him, Tyler Conklin, Will Dissly, they're fine veterans. They'll probably begin the season as better inline tight ends than Oronde Gadsden, but I'm buying Gadsden for like a 4th round pick right now because that's what he costs in rookie drafts. He went undrafted in a lot of my leagues and I picked him up like crazy. Michael Mayer, I think, can still play as well, and he could get dealt in the trade market. So if you guys are looking for a young tight end upside piece, trading for Michael Mayer with like a 4th round pick, not a bad idea because rumors have been swirling for months about him potentially getting dealt away from the Raiders. Obviously, right now, no path to targets with Bowers there, but if he gets dealt, maybe he goes to a team that could really use a tight end like him. I could really see him having a nice productive career ahead of him still. Michael Mayer was a great prospect. He just kind of got nuked by Brock Bowers, and Brock Bowers is just an absolute machine. So Dynasty tight ends who I'm selling. I'll go quick on this. I love Isaiah Likely, the player. I feel like tight end 8 is ridiculous. I have him at tight end 13, which I feel like should be above market for him. But the dude is tight end 8 on the market. Tight end 8 ahead of David Njoku. That is an absolutely ridiculous number that he is ranked at. Andrews is probably not going to be there for long, but he is there still. And you got to put some respect on Mark Andrews. He's still a good player. Isaiah Likely is a guy who's probably going to only play 50, 60% of the routes. You can't rank him tight end 8 if that's going to happen, at least not yet, even though he's young and he's productive, and I'm sure he's going to have a great career. You can't get there yet with Isaiah Likely. I would love to be a Kyle Pitts bull, fellas, but I fear it's Jover. It might be over with this guy. Tight end 13 on the market doesn't signify that it's over yet. That suggests that you can get a 2nd rounder for him, and maybe even a early potential 2nd rounder for him, and he's already banged up again. I love Kyle Pitts, the theory, the thought. I don't love Kyle Pitts, the player. You got to re-roll on these rookie tight ends. If you can get Terrence Ferguson or Mason Taylor straight up for Kyle Pitts, you should be doing it every time. Because given the sample we have of Kyle Pitts, it is much more likely that he isn't good than he is. He's still young, I get it, but it's probably not likely going to result in a great, productive tight end career unless something dramatically changes. So Kyle Pitts, probably a sell for me. Evan Ingram is nearly 31 years old. He's on his 3rd team, and he's probably not going to get used like he did in Jacksonville. So I think a lot of people probably assuming he'll get 100 targets, 120 targets with Denver because they don't have any receivers, and he's a good receiving tight end. He can earn targets. That's fair. I actually don't mind him in a redraft for that reason, but he's nearly 31 years old. I don't think he's a great dynasty asset given what his age is and all that kind of stuff. And then Brenton Strange, you guys know my thoughts on him. He just stinks. I don't know why people value him as like tight end 20 in Dynasty. Jacksonville's got a very, very concentrated group of target earners there with Hunter, with Brian Thomas, and then the run game I think is going to be a big focal for Liam Cohen as well. Don't think there's going to be a whole lot left over for Brenton Strange. So Dynasty trade targets by position is in the books. Let me know who you guys are buying, who you guys are selling. Again, earlier in this video, I reminded you if you guys are graphic designers, if you are interested in working with us, thumbnails, graphic design, big projects, small projects, maybe even editing here and there, link down below in the description if you guys want to potentially work with me and Danny directly. All the details are there in the Google form, so definitely fill that out if you're interested. If you're not a professional graphic designer, probably abstain from filling out that form because we are looking for like serious people who are interested in that. But yeah, if you guys are interested, fill that out down below. If you guys want all of our dynasty rankings, all of our trade value charts, you guys got to see them in action here. Head on over to flockfantasy.com. Use the promo code FSE when you sign up. You will get a free annual team review when you sign up for a Mother Flocker tier with promo code FSE. You guys see us, live streaming team reviews all the time. If you want your team broken down live on the channel, we'll give you legitimate 10 minutes of full dedicated talk to your team and how you can improve your dynasty roster. Head on over to Flock Fantasy, use the promo code FSE, sign up for an annual Mother Flocker, and then redeem your team review voucher, and you will get that from us live on stream. And of course, you get all of our dynasty rankings, all of our dynasty rookie draft guide, our redraft guide, which will be coming out probably in a couple of weeks from now. You'll also get all of our rookie rankings, redraft rankings, dynasty rankings, everything you could ask for, trade value chart, trade calculators, trade finder, the My Teams feature, which is one of the best features on the dynasty market right now. Head on over to Flock Fantasy, use the code FSE, and check everything out. Start your free trial today. Like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed. But with that being said, peace out, and I'll talk to you soon.